Hello everybody. I am filming this on December 1st. Where has the year gone? Last time I checked it was Halloween and now it's December. I feel like I blinked and I skipped the entirety of November. But today we're going to be talking about the Witchcraft and Pagan book releases that are coming out in December 2025. And there are some really good ones in this video. Some that I think would make really nice gifts. There's one in particular that's like a coffee table hardback, really beautiful book that would just make an incredible gift. But I also think that some of these books perhaps set up trends for the books that we're going to be seeing in the year to come. Now, as always, I do have some links down in the description box. These are affiliate links. If you do use those links, the channel does get a little bit of extra support, but I would always recommend first and foremost going through small independent booksellers because these are the people that need your support the most. And with that being said, grab a drink, grab a snack. You might want to put some of these on a little Christmassy wish list, or perhaps you might become inspired for somebody in your life that might appreciate them. Either way, I hope you enjoy this video and let's dive into some of these books. To kick things off, we have a book on crystals. On the 2nd of December in both the UK and USA, we have Songs of the Stones, crystals to connect with the ancestors and the earth. Discover the healing properties and inner energies of these stones through ancient legends. Connect to the stones and our shared ancestors with your heart center for healing and spiritual growth. After traveling to many sacred sites, exploring her own heritage and gathering legends on venerable stones, Katie Jane Wright has curated a selection of grounding mineral stones and healing properties we can all access. Discover not just local, familiar gemstones, such as Apache tears, obsidian, sea coal, and carnelian, but standing stones, such as Sidonia red rock from the US, and structures of flint and limestone in Mexico. This book features photographs of the stones, both individually and in their landscapes, details of the stone's qualities and healing effects, stories and legends from our global ancestors, grids to channel the energy of the stones, unique light activation code artworks, rituals and meditations to connect with the stones. Now, as we go through, I do tend to add my 2 cents in, mostly because I love talking about books, and I know that many of my favourite books are also your favourite books too, and so I like seeing whether we're on the same page with these things or not. So with all of these books, feel free to let me know what you think, and if you've read them, then definitely add a review down there as well to help other people decide on whether a book's for them or not. Personally, I think I'm going to skip this one, mostly because if you have a book on crystals, unless you really want to be working in depth with crystals and stones and minerals, you're probably not going to need more than 1 or 2 books on the topic. For me, I have Scott Cunningham's book on crystals, gems, and stones. I'll be honest, I can't remember what the book is actually called, but it's blue and it's by Scott Cunningham. And because I don't really use crystals that much, that tends to be where I just focus my energy. But one thing I do really like about this book is that they place crystals within the location where they reside. I've noticed, especially in the last maybe 10 years, that more and more people don't really realise where the stones they're getting are coming from. There's a really big push now for sustainability, making sure that mining is ethical both for the environment and for the people, which is a massive improvement on how it was done before. But I do think there is a sense of separation between the crystals that we use and the landscape that they come from. And I think that this connection is actually a really eye-opening and refreshing thing. I also like the use of crystal grids in this. I like that they're included. It's a way of using the stones that you have instead of just having them sitting around. So those things I do really appreciate. Also on the 2nd of December is a book that's probably going to be like Marmite for a lot of people. This is coming out on the 2nd in both the US and UK. This is Aleister Crowley's Mysticism, a practical guide. Now, Aleister Crowley is a very divisive figure in the magical community. Some people will totally steer clear of everything he has ever done, and other people are really fascinated about his place within occultism and magical history. And that's why I think this book is going to be Marmite, because ultimately it really depends on where you stand. This is a highly practical, no-nonsense guide to unpacking Aleister Crowley's mysticism and using it in the modern world, by focusing on the Holy Guardian Angel experience. Marco Visconti skillfully continues his exploration of Thelema, advancing beyond his acclaimed first book. This sequel serves as a practical handbook, guiding you through the intricacies of advanced Thelemic practices, with a focus on the Holy Guardian Angel experience. Visconti dispels myths and provides clarity, offering a comprehensive survey of associated rituals, such as the Headless Rite, the Abramelin Operation, and the Liber Samech, as well as some more, often overlooked in contemporary works. The book takes a hands-on approach, empowering you with real-life, daily practices to delve into the mysterious realm of Thelema. Explore the arcane wisdom embedded in the major arcana of the Thoth Tarot, which reveals a tapestry of transformative knowledge for those seeking to navigate the profound and practical aspects of Thelemic magic. In these pages, Visconti also illuminates the alchemical underpinnings of the Thelema, revealing how the ancient quest to transmute base metals into gold finds a modern parallel in the inner work of self-transformation. Through clear explanations and step-by-step methods, readers explore how to harness elemental forces and ritual techniques as part of a personal great work, bridging the everyday self with the divine spark of one's true will. This is a journey for readers seeking deep spiritual insights and practical applications in the realms of magic and mysticism. So I actually didn't realise until I was sort of scripting for all this that this is actually the second in a series. So this one looks really interesting. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, but what I would say is perhaps start with the first book before moving on to this one. The first book is called The Aleister Crowley Manual, Thelemic Magic for Modern Times. I will leave that link down in the description box as well if you do want to check it out. It's definitely not going to be for everybody. If you're interested in the Thelema, if you're interested in learning more about Aleister Crowley's work and modern applications, then this one could be really good. This one is a really, really niche topic, but so far, based on the reviews of the first book, people seem to be really enjoying it. And then on the 2nd of December in the US and January in the UK, we have another quite niche book. This is Paganism for Prisoners, Connecting to the Magic Within. Now, this is a revised and expanded edition, so if you already have this in your collection, you're probably not going to need it again unless you are a collector. Paganism for Prisoners is a year-and-a-day style course for pagans who are incarcerated or in other situations that prevent them from having full access to tools and resources. Designed to have one chapter per month discussed in a group or one-on-one setting, this book provides 13 magical lessons that can introduce readers to paganism while allowing them to apply these lessons to other areas of their life. Awyn Dawn's revolutionary volume serves as a vital companion for those on a resource-scarce journey through paganism. This 2025 edition has been revised and expanded to contain some additional topics, such as death doulas, an updated list of what is available to the pagan prison population, and new exercises to expand practical and working knowledge. Paganism for Prisoners is a critical addition to the field, ensuring equal access to magic for all. Now, this is definitely a topic that doesn't get talked about a lot. The application of varying different religious beliefs in end-of-life care or in prison care. When you think of religious figures who support in hospitals and prisons, you often primarily focus on Christian practices. Whether they are pastors or whether they are priests, these people would go in to help assist those who need it spiritually. The same also applies within paganism as well. There are many people who help to support end of life. There are many people who help to support people who are incarcerated in their religious and spiritual beliefs within paganism as well. And I really like the format of this, the idea of it being a slow progress book where you aren't working through it in a week. You're spending a year and a day going through it. And you can do this with any book that you have as well. You don't just have to do it with a book like this, but breaking it down into practices that you can spend weeks, months working on can really help us cement our magical practice into the real world instead of it remaining in the pages of a book. Especially if you, like me, have really bad memory when it comes to books. I tend to read something, put a book down, and immediately forgot what I've read. Unless something really stands out to me, poof, it is gone. And so taking that time to go over a chapter multiple times, to be doing those practices again and again and again over the course of a couple weeks or a couple months gives us a much better chance of recalling that information and continuing to apply it. So for that reason, I think this looks really fascinating. Though obviously it's not going to be a book for everybody. Now, this is one that I totally missed its launch in the UK. This is one of those that just slipped through the cracks. On the 2nd of December in the US and already released in the UK, we have The Years of the Wizard, The Strange True History and Home Life of Renaissance Magicians. Another kind of niche topic, though this is one that I think I do want to add in my collection because it's exactly the kind of weird, quirky, niche topic that I just have to deep dive into. All things were believable back then. Wizards, alchemy, fairies, angels. This is the story of those magical times, a lyrical and highly atmospheric exploration of the lives of Tudor and Renaissance magicians, men from Dee to Kelper to Bruno, who were also scientists, astrologers, mathematicians, and alchemists. Their studies, books, and ideas still permeate scientific history, as well as literature and film, from Philip Pullman to C.S. Lewis. But what do we know of the rest of their households? The lovers, wives, mothers, and daughters. In The Years of the Wizard, Rachel Morris also vividly reimagines the less documented lives of the magicians' families and lovers. From those who supported the travelling households, packed up the libraries, feeding the assistants, entertaining the patrons, educating the children, as well as those archiving, documenting, and collaborating with their magical work. With vivid storytelling, Rachel Morris magically animates both the known past lives of these extraordinary men and the imaginary stories of the less documented women, elders, and children in this area of discovery and magic. So it's important to remember with this one that it is merging together history and fiction. And that's just something that we need to be bearing in mind to keep fact checking, and hopefully throughout the book there is sort of reference to where the fiction takes over and where the fact is at the forefront. This time period though absolutely fascinates me. I just love Tudor and Renaissance history anyway, but there is something about the way that magic and witchcraft were perceived that makes it doubly fascinating to me. The fact that the most highly educated people in society were taught astrology and alchemy alongside maths as though they were one and the same, because then they were considered of equal value. Now, when people think of witchcraft from an outside perspective, they often think of it as being anti-science, anti-education. And while there are certain areas of the magical and spiritual community that are anti-science and are anti-education, the general collective isn't. And there are many people today who are vets and doctors and dentists. They work in labs, they're teachers, and they practice witchcraft, and they celebrate the seasons, and they work with different pagan paths. But it's not considered quite the same today as it was throughout history. And so I'm definitely going to be picking this one up just because I'm fascinated. The merge of fiction and non-fiction as well is just really interesting. Also on the 2nd of December in the US, there's a lot coming out on the 2nd of December, but it's actually already released in the UK, and I think I totally missed it, is Pantheon, the Greeks. Now, this is not going to be for anybody who just wants to focus on witchcraft, but if you do have an interest in history, and especially if you do work with the Greek Pantheon, then this could be something to look into. Experience Greek magic and ritual from its history to its mythology. As part of a series exploring different religious traditions and beliefs in the ancient world, Pantheon, the Greeks covers the basics of Greek mythology to ground readers and practitioners in history, mythology, cosmology, rituals, celebrations, prayers, and magic, as well as gods, goddesses, and other beings. That's all the information they have on it, but so often I get asked about books on different mythologies. And this Pantheon series looks like an interesting one because it goes into the myths, legends, and history, as well as the application into magic and ritual, which I do think is really interesting. Another one coming out on the 2nd of December in the US and already released in the UK is Tarot, the Life Code, A Fool, a Magician, and the Secret of Life. The award-winning Life Code tarot deck, including the system in this book, revealed itself piece by piece over an 18-month period, 3 weeks after Janis King returned from a life-changing week at the Arthur Findlay College. What began was an idea for a new deck, but what emerged next was a way of seeing tarot through a different lens. A new system that redefines the relationship between the major and the minor arcana of the tarot deck, casting them in quite a new light. This is not a learn-to-read tarot book, although it will certainly be a great place to start your journey. These pages will add a new dimension to how to see tarot and its continuing evolution as a spiritual language. A different perspective that both repositions our understanding of its purpose and supercharges its readings. By casting you in the role of the magician, tarot becomes an instruction manual, showing you how to create a rich, loving, and abundant life experience. A tarot map for how to do life. Now, I will cautiously say that perhaps if you are brand new to tarot, that you don't get this as the only book on tarot reading, mostly because if it's based off a particular tarot deck, that might get a little bit confusing if that's not the deck that you're working with yourself. Reading tarot is so unique to individuals, but there's definitely a theory behind it, and a lot of books out there do cover the theory really, really well, but I would say with this, perhaps work it alongside a book that you already have in your collection. What I will say though, it's bold to say that this is the secret of life. I don't think anybody really knows the secret of life, but this could be something to look into if you are interested in the Arthur Findlay College, if you do have this deck yourself, or you're just wanting to develop your tarot skills a little bit more. This one could give you ideas that you just never thought of before. Now, we have 2 books in this month that are about prosperity. And which one you go for is really going to depend on your style of practice. I'll kind of, when we get to the other one, give you my 2 cents as to which one I would choose depending on how you practice and your personal style. But the first one is coming out on the 2nd of December in the US. It's already released in the UK. This is Prosperity Magic, spell working for abundance, money, and prosperity. This one's by Rachel Patterson, so already a massive name within the magical community. From the author of Fate and Fortune magazine's ever-popular Witch That Gets You Rich column, Rachel Patterson's Prosperity Magic welcomes you to the realm of money-making magic. But that's not all. Abundance and prosperity can manifest in all kinds of ways, in the form of cold hard cash, or equally in the form of friends, family, love, and happiness. Prosperity Magic provides a plethora of general magical suggestions, spell workings, tips, and correspondences for creating all kinds of magic. Abundance and money-making magic to enrich and enhance your life, as well as recover from debts, because sometimes we need that too. All the spells here are straightforward and uncomplicated, often using items and ingredients easily found in your home, kitchen, and cupboards. Money magic shouldn't be complicated. It should involve simple steps for creating and manifesting the comfortable life you deserve, not just for you, but also for those you care about. You deserve abundance in all areas of your life. Make it happen. So this one primarily focuses on prosperity, and in my own workings, I typically use prosperity to represent the same thing. This isn't necessarily always financial prosperity, though that is typically what people immediately think of. Instead, think of it as being prosperity in all areas of life. Whatever it is that you need prosperity in, love, luck, money, it amplifies the energy of what we're working towards. But for a lot of people, it does focus on financial prosperity. And when we're looking at that, it's really important to bear in mind that magic isn't going to be a fix-all solution. If you are tens of thousands of pounds in debt and you aren't doing anything about it in any other area of your life, then you can cast as many spells as you want, but realistically, you're not going to be able to recoup £40,000 whilst also not doing anything physically to resolve it. They are used alongside mundane life as a way of amplifying what we're doing, speeding it along, and improving the results that we're getting. So that's one of the prosperity books that we're going to be talking about today. This actually reminds me a little bit, a few months ago, there were 2 books in that video as well, and the one that I recommended in that one was the Patricia Telesco one. I often find that when there's 2 books like this, you're probably going to instantly be drawn to one book versus the other, and just sort of go with your gut instinct on that. So the next one is a book that I will just say contains some sensitive topics. It does focus on sobriety and getting to the point where you are no longer dependent on alcohol. If this is a topic that is particularly sensitive to you and you do want to skip over it, I'm going to put a timestamp on the screen. If you skip to that point, you can skip this book. That's totally fine. On the 2nd of December in the US and the 4th in the UK, we have Sober Magic, using the tarot and ritual in your journey away from drinking. A welcoming guide to using magical craft and tarot as tools in a sobriety journey. Whether you've been sober for years, are trying to quit, are sober curious, or are simply interested in reassessing your relationship with alcohol. Growing numbers of people are exploring the transformative choices to reduce their consumption of alcohol or remove it from their lives altogether. But the traditional tools or frameworks don't work for everyone. In this book, sober witch and renowned tarot practitioner Sarah Potter acts as a guide on a journey for those who are curious about getting sober while creating a spiritual practice through witchcraft and tarot, with card readings, rituals, enchantments, and a self-exploration process inspired by both the 12-step recovery framework and the Fool's Journey of the Tarot. Sober Magic empowers you to discover your inner light, honour your intuition, and celebrate your magic without drinking. And then on the 4th of December in the UK, and apparently already released in the US, we have Lexicon Lamarium by Daniel A. Shulke. Now, I've spoken about this one in many previous videos, so I'm not going to be talking about it very much today at all, other than to say that a lot of the times, especially when you're looking at smaller publishers, there can be a lot of delays in the process. Three Hands Press, which is the publisher for Lexicon Lamarium, quite often has some long delays on its book publication, so I'll let you know in the comment section if this does actually come out on the 4th of December. I will be keeping an eye out, but if you're interested, feel free to check any of the previous month's videos and more information will be there. We then have, on the 4th of December in the UK, already released in the US, The Apothecary of Belonging, Seasonal Rituals and Practical Herbalism, a practical guidebook and a book of plant magic. The Apothecary of Belonging takes us on a magical journey through each of the 4 seasons with plant allies as our guides and companions. Author Alexis J. Cunningfolk explores how to know ourselves as beings who deeply belong to the land and one another, while teaching us about the energetic foundations of traditional Western herbalism that follow through the seasons within and around us. Featuring 12 main seasonal allies and over 70 additional plant and herbal profiles, you will find methods for combining seasonal herbalism for physical vitality with magical practice to support personal healing and community empowerment. This includes an indications-based guide to plant allies for common ailments, herbal remedy suggestions, simple tea recipes to support your energy, rituals for solo or community practice including divination techniques, lunar blessings to support your remedy making throughout the year, and opportunities for sacred inquiry through journaling. Speaking to the common yearning for kinship and connection, The Apothecary of Belonging is a love letter, reminding us that we can always find our way back home to each other. Now, the only thing that I can say on this is please be very careful if you already are taking medications or if you don't know if you have any sensitivities to anything before you consume anything, even things like teas. Simple teas of different herbal blends can complicate pre-existing medical conditions and medications. So that's really the only thing I can say, and I'm assuming that they will go into that in the book anyway, but it is something to be mindful of because just because something is natural doesn't mean it's safe, so just be careful. On the 4th of December in the UK and already released in the US, we have Living Folk Magic, Crafting Your Own Magical Life. Living Folk Magic emphasises that folk magic is something alive, vital and modern. Discover practical and helpful information regardless of your ethnic or spiritual background to create a fulfilling and successful magical folk magic practice. Folk magic exists in every culture and has been practiced since the dawn of time. It is more than casting a spell or creating a ritual. It's a way of life, a way of living, a way of perceiving the world and all within it. Living Folk Magic explains how to build an entire folk magic practice from cleansing and protection to blessing and cursing, and provides instructions on how to build altars, whether openly or secretly, practice divination, communicate with spirits, and more. Support from the 4 pillars of magic, these elements serve to provide stability, structure, and protection. These include cleansing, to remove negative energy, blessing, to imbue with love, protecting, to charge with energy that repels evil, and defending, to combat evil. In Living Folk Magic, author Mary Grace Fahrun seeks to share her magical perspective and processes in the hope of inspiring both beginners and experienced practitioners alike. Now, I spoke about this one last month, and I do still have the same concerns then as I do now. I think this one is going to be adding into my collection because I really want to see what it's all about. But folk magic is rooted in people and place. There is not really such a thing as generic folk practice. It has to come from somewhere. It is the magic of the people for the people in a particular location. Take England, for example. You can travel from one village to another during the early modern period, and the practices of the Cunningfolk would have been totally different. They would have been based on similar principles, but the practices would have shifted. To go from one village to the next, one county to the next. The folk magic in Devon is different than it is in Somerset. It's different than it is in Cornwall, even though they're right next to one another. The same applies everywhere else in the world as well. Magic of the people is very strongly rooted in place, it's rooted in culture, and it's rooted in the community that it's a part of. And I don't think you can really take folk magic out of that. So I'm really curious to see how this book is going to create something that can be for everybody, everywhere, all at once. And so I'm really tempted to get this one myself, just to deep dive into it. I want to go in with an open mind, and no doubt it will be a really, really good book. And then I would like to be able to come back and talk more about it, because this is the kind of book that, especially when we're seeing a real push towards folk magic, people want to root themselves in history, in location more, that I think a lot of people will be drawn to, and I really want to see what it's like. Another one that we spoke about last month, this is already released in the US, it's coming out on the 4th of December in the UK. This is The Spiritual Magic of Dolls. If you've sensed the magic within your dolls but never fully understood it, Najah becomes your trusted guide, unveiling how dolls can become powerful partners in your spiritual and magical practices. Dolls have been both beloved companions and instruments of magic for millennia. In The Spiritual Magic of Dolls, author Najah Lightfoot bridges these two uses, companionship and magic, to enable readers to develop profound magical and spiritual relationships with their own dolls. Many have beloved dolls displayed on shelves or sitting in boxes. Perhaps you still have favourite childhood dolls, or have been gifted a doll or inherited one from a relative or a friend. What if you could do more with them? Najah shows you how. The Spiritual Magic of Dolls teaches you how to take that attachment to the next level, to be closer to them in magical, loving ways. Now, the next one I've included even though it isn't a book, because it just looks so fascinating. This is actually a map, which totally might confuse you right now, but just bear with me, we'll get there. On the 8th of December in the US and already released in the UK, and I totally missed this one, is Accused. Now, this one is so fascinating that I couldn't resist adding it in, because I have a map that's rather similar to this, that talks about mythologies and magical places around the British Isles. And this one focuses on witchcraft and witch memorials in the British Isles, which is actually even cooler, and I so want to get this. Discover the haunting legacy of the witch persecution across the UK with this guide to witch memorials, monuments, and historic sites. Between the 16th and 18th centuries, thousands of people were accused of witchcraft across Britain, over 4,000 executed in Scotland alone, with hundreds more in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Scotland, from Edinburgh's Witch's Well beneath the castle to Andy Scott's striking 10-foot Athena statue in, I'm going to butcher this name, Prestonpans. That's definitely not right. That's a place I've never heard of. Prestonpans. I definitely butchered that. I'm so sorry. Scotland offers the most extensive collection of witch memorials. Explore the simple horseshoe at Maxwelton Cross, marking where 7 people, including 2 children, were executed in 1697. Or visit the enigmatic Maggie Wall monument near Dunning, a weathered pillar whose origins remain shrouded in mystery. England. Follow the path of Matthew Hopkins, self-appointed Witchfinder General, through Essex's memorial sites, including Colchester Castle's granite plaque and Admiral Park's memorial tree in Chelmsford. Walk the Lancashire Witches' Trail from Barrowford to Lancaster Castle, where cast-iron waymarkers display verses from Carol Ann Duffy's commemorative poem. Cornwall and Wales. Visit Boscastle's renowned Museum of Witchcraft and Magic, housing one of the world's most extensive collections dedicated to European witchcraft and folklore. In Wales, stand at the execution sites of the country's first and last witch trials at Denbigh and Beaumaris. Interestingly, just a side note here, in Wales, there weren't the same number of witch trials carried out because it just wasn't seen as a persecutable offence in the same way as it was in England. The majority of all of the accusations and trials that occurred in Wales came from judges that came over from England in order to conduct those trials. For the most part, Wales missed out on the majority of the witch trials, which I think is just really interesting, and Scotland had the worst of it. And I've actually done an episode previously on the Pittenweem witch trials, which I will link somewhere, probably up here, if you do want to check out more information on that. Anyway, to continue, Northern Ireland. Contemplate the memorial plaque at the Gobbins Visitor Centre, commemorating the witches of Island Magee, victims of Ireland's last recorded witch trial in 1711. Each entry includes detailed location information, historical context, and directions to these often hidden sites of remembrance. Does that not sound so good? I think that sounds so good. I definitely want to get this. That sounds amazing, and that's why I included a map, even though it might sound a little bit strange. On the 8th of December in the US and January in the UK, we have Before You Do Magic. Train your mind to awaken occult skills. Before you perform spells and rituals, you need to develop your innate abilities. Otherwise, you'll just find yourself going through the motions without achieving any practical results. Regardless of your experience or traditions, this book's 120 exercises will help you gain the energetic focus needed to make your magic more effective. Donald Tyson provides 12 chapters that each cover a different topic and why it's necessary for better magic. These include occult sympathies, controlled breathing, meditation, visualization, concentration, dramatization, incantation, realization, the aura, scrying, channeling, astral projection. Within these chapters are 10 exercises to choose from that will help you strengthen the corresponding topic or skill. Find the exercise that most resonates within you and apply them multiple times to build up your stoic abilities and open yourself to the realm of magic within your heart and mind. I think this could be a real contender for Matt Oren's Psychic Witch. No? Right? This is where I'm going. I think this could be a real contender. These are all really important foundational practices, especially things like meditation, dramatization. The idea of applying these things into real practice is what builds those foundations. And without that foundation of energy work, of all of the stuff that goes behind the scenes of a spell, you often don't find yourself with a magical response at all. Because you can just say the words, but if there's no energy behind it, you're not really going to get anywhere. So I think I'm going to have to get this one, just to see how it compares to Psychic Witch. I really only finished Psychic Witch like 4 months ago, which for me is not that long ago. So I think it's really a good time to be comparing the two, because not everybody likes the psychic work aspect of Psychic Witch. It's not something that you have to do, but it's definitely incorporated in the book, though I still really enjoy the book and I think it's really beneficial to most practitioners. But I would be interested to see how this one is by comparison. It's also by Donald Tyson, who is an author that I recognise the name of, but I have no idea why. So I will put some of their other books, if I can find any, on the screen over here so that you can go and have a look to see if you have any in your collection already, because I'm pretty certain I do. I just can't remember what. Bad with names, great with faces, always have been, always will be. We then have 2 books back to back by Llewellyn on 2 completely opposing topics, which I do think is interesting. So up first, on the 8th of December in the US and January in the UK, we have Llewellyn's complete book of the moon, Lunar Wisdom for Magic, Healing and Inspiration. Harness the moon's transformative energies with more than 150 practices, rituals, and recipes. High Priestess Jessamine Angelica guides you on an in-depth, illuminating journey through lunar phases, moon magic, and sacred ritual. Jessamine shares more than 3 decades of expertise to help you develop a profound connection with cosmic tides and build a sustainable magical practice. This comprehensive book features an abundance of ways to tune into the moon for spell work, healing, and personal growth. It includes many different things, including creating lunar potions and remedies, conducting powerful rituals, developing intuitive abilities, working with the moon phases for optimal magical timing, connect with the lunar goddesses, craft moon waters and magical tools, assemble your own lunar apothecary, decode dreams, explore moon divination, and access your lunar self. Filled with detailed ritual instructions and time-tested techniques, this is an essential resource for anyone seeking to embrace the magic and mystery of our celestial companion. To counter that, on the 8th of December in the UK, already released in the US, is Llewellyn's Little Book of Sun Spells. Featuring more than 50 spells, this convenient portable guide to solar magic offers innovative ways to connect with the sun's energies for greater success and happiness. Impassion your practice with the sun's fiery radiance and manifest your desires for more abundance, courage, and cheer. With step-by-step instructions for witches of all skill levels, this 2-colour book offers a wealth of solar rituals, spells, and crafts to illuminate your path. Discover seasonal activities for each month and Sabbath, create a sunset potion for closure, victory powder for luck, and a suncatcher for wishes. Melanie Marquis also teaches how to enhance your spells with solar timing and a bounty of magical correspondences. Mirroring. I have a lisp on R's. Sorry. Mirroring. Ha, there we go. That sounded so forced. Mirroring. No, that's too many R's. Mirroring. Mirroring. Mirroring Llewellyn's Little Book of Moon Spells. Haha, I'll just pretend I got that in one take. This attractive hardcover with gold foil accents offers powerful solar magic for every occasion. So when it comes to witchcraft, a lot of people will work with the dual aspects of the sun and the moon. They are counterparts to one another, balancing each other's energies. You can choose to work with one, you can choose to work with both, you can choose to work with neither, whatever you feel particularly drawn to. But those are 2 by Llewellyn. Another on the 8th, we have a book that we spoke about last month, so it's coming out in the UK, already released in the US. This is The Chaos Apple, Magic and Discordianism for the Postmodern Witch. Discover the reality-warping wizard of chaos. Join Thumper Forge, a chaos witch extraordinaire and Gardnerian Wiccan, on the wildest magical ride this side of the multiverse. He serves as your witty tour guide through the topsy-turvy realms of chaos, witchcraft, and Discordianism, where you can dance with Eris, the cosmic trickster himself. Learn to bend mischief like a spoon, craft sigils that make the universe giggle, and summon parking spots with the grace of a sorcerer. With a wink and a cackle, Forge teaches you to embrace the absurd, harness the power of paradigm parkour, and discover why sometimes the most powerful magic comes with a side of laughter. I thought that one sounded good last time. I think it sounds good this time. I do find it interesting how I can say all of those tongue-twistery things, but I can't say the word mirroring without struggling. Weird. Also on the 8th of December in the UK, already released in America, is Sacred Wild, an invitation to connect with spirits of the land. Enter the realm of land spirits, your best allies for protection and growth, and build personal relationships with stones, plants, animals, elementals, and much more. If you've ever experienced a special sense of place or a draw to the outdoors, you've been in the presence of land spirits. They're everywhere on Earth and can be valuable members of your personal spirit team, if only you reach out. Equal parts guide and grimoire, this book is perfect for anyone interested in earth-based faith, magic, travel, and environmentalism. Through more than 60 exercises, rituals, spells, and meditations, you can learn how to recognize and create sustainable magical practices for the mutual benefit of ourselves and our planet. Coming out on the 8th of December in the US and January in the UK, we have Making Tarot Magic, Rituals and Remedies to Transform Readings into Action. If you've ever left a tarot reading thinking, now what? Briana Saucy's Making Tarot Magic provides the answers. In various traditions around the world, divination is not a stopping point, it's the beginning. A querent may come to tarot or other forms of divination to receive insight into their situation, but also to glean a diagnosis and treatments to remedy problems. These treatments are often magical rituals or ceremonies. The querent could perform them themselves or have somebody else perform them on their behalf. Each tarot card has specific recommendations for what kind of magic and ritual might be appropriate to address a specific concern. You just need to learn how to read them and an eye to their inner magic. Each section of the book is dedicated to a single magical condition: abundance, healing, love, justice, and more. Every tarot card has an interpretation seen through the lens of, and with respect to, the magical condition the section has focused on. Techniques are given for the types of magical work best suited to a particular card's presence and meaning in a reading. Suggested intentions provide guidelines for what attitude or spirit you may want to infuse your work with to produce the best results. It includes magical basics, rituals, and ceremonial suggestions and recipes. Learn to work the sacred vessels, candles and oils, lamps, incense, sachets, spiritual baths, herbs and roots, magical words, prayers, petitions, sacred waters, textile magic, and spirits. Making Tarot Magic teaches you how to tune in, interpret the issue, and find the remedy. Now, I very strongly will stand by, same with spellbooks, that I don't think you need massive amounts of tarot books in order to be a successful tarot reader. I think when you're just getting started, one book, maybe two, is totally sufficient for what you need. However, this book I feel is different, and it breaks the mold for me a little bit, because this is one of those books that takes tarot reading and merges it with witchcraft. And while we have seen books like that in the past, I like the fact that this feels very practical. A lot of the times people will do tarot readings for themselves and then they'll be like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? Or they'll go to a tarot reader and they'll come out of it and they'll be like, okay, so I know that all of these things in my life are not great right now, but I have no idea how to actually take any of this information and do something with it. And I feel like this, whether you're an individual reader or whether you read professionally, could be a really great way of bridging that gap, especially if perhaps the witchcraft side isn't something that you're particularly well versed in yourself. It could be a good way of brushing up on that side of your practice, even if you don't carry it out, to say, you might want to look into this, how about you talk to this person about that, maybe look up a book on this topic, to give them something, some purchase to hold on to, so they can then get themselves out or adjust the situations as they see fit. But generally, I think even for an individual person who's just reading for themselves, especially if you're more of a beginner in witchcraft, then this could be a good way of saying, okay, well, how can we take this and make it better? And so I think it's actually a really refreshing take on tarot. Now, do you remember at the start of the video, I said that there were 2 books on prosperity magic, and it was up to you to decide which one, if either, was most suited for your requirements. This is the other of those books. So on the 8th of December, and I believe January in the UK, if not, I'll put it on the screen. This is Financial Sorcery, Magical Strategies to Create Real and Lasting Wealth. Now, this is by Jason Miller, another massive hitter in the magical community. Financial Sorcery will give you step-by-step instructions on how to improve your fiscal situation, combining timeless financial wisdom with enhanced sorcery. Author Jason Miller teaches not only magical exercises to improve your finances, but also the mindset for financial wellness and tools for traditional financial planning so you can continue to grow your wealth. This life-changing book goes far beyond simple money magic, sharing not only the magic skills needed to succeed, but also the money mindset. This is a tome of true financial sorcery that will show you how to ensure success no matter what life throws at you. Stop using magic to fix emergency problems and start using it to build your dream life. Use times of economic uncertainty to create new opportunities rather than cause problems. Work joyfully with money as part of your spiritual discipline rather than as a necessary evil. Deploy strategic sorcery to kill your debt. Make offerings to help increase the flow of prosperity around you. Ditch old concepts and retrain your mind to make money in today's world. This revised edition, that's something to bear in mind, I didn't notice that earlier, of Financial Sorcery contains a new introduction, an all-new chapter, and updates throughout. So obviously, if you already have this book, you are not going to need it again. But let's just talk about this one first. This one primarily focuses on money. That's the drive here. It's not general prosperity, it is finances. And so that's going to be like a massive difference. Now, I'm going to assume that they will touch on it within the book, but I do really want to emphasize that sometimes it isn't that you're doing your witchcraft wrong. It isn't that your mindset isn't correct. Sometimes bad financial situations will just happen and it's totally out of your control. Sometimes books on financial magic can come across a little victim blamey, but in reality, a lot of people all around the world are one bad paycheck away from being in a financial crisis. It's an awful reality to a lot of people's financial situations, and I just really want to emphasize that more often than not, it isn't your fault as an individual. Sometimes bad things just do happen. But I do really appreciate that this one seems to go into not only the magical aspect, but also the mundane physical aspect of it. Here are real tools that can help improve your finances, and then here's magic that you can do on top of it. I really appreciate that. Now, in terms of deciding between the 2 books, if you're like, oh, I would really like a book on financial magic and I don't know which one to look at, go off what is most important to you. Do you want to amplify positive things in your life, or do you want to amplify finances? Because the Rachel Patterson book can do general abundance and finances. But this one is primarily focusing on the finances. So that's something to bear in mind. This one is way more targeted. The other one is a little bit more general in what it's covering. Also, from my experience, Rachel Patterson tends to lean a little bit more into the Wiccan adjacent modern witchcraft path, which is super accessible. It's super adaptable to many different styles of practitioners. You can take things apart, put things back together again, and it will work just fine. I have often found in Jason Miller's work, it's a little bit more ceremonial in nature. It isn't necessarily everybody's style, and so that's something to just bear in mind as well. Ultimately, they're both really good authors. It just depends on where you would want to be driving your energy. For me, I actually think I like the sound of the Jason Miller one more, mostly because I appreciate that it is very targeted on a singular topic. And for general abundance, I already have sort of my own styles and techniques. But if you are newer to the craft and maybe you just feel like you're floundering, the Rachel Patterson one is probably the best choice because it's highly adaptable. You're going to be able to pick those workings apart and put them back together again, figure out why, where, when, how, and it allows you to develop your practice better whilst having something that is very variable and it's highly adaptable. So ultimately, I think they're both going to be good. Just depends on what you're going to be looking at specifically for your craft. On December the 9th in the US and January in the UK, we have A Witch's Year, journey through the changing seasons in a constant process of unfolding and becoming. Now, I am pretty certain I've spoken about this book at least twice in the past, maybe 3 times. This is another one of those where I think something's gotten caught up in publication. Sometimes things just get delayed. I'm not going to go over this one again though, but if you do want to check it out, I do speak about it in previous videos. This next book is one that I mentioned in, I think it was the live stream in November, and it is finally coming out in America. And this one I'm very excited about, on the 9th of December in the US and February in the UK. So there's a bit of a delay here. This is Polish Folk Magic, Ancestral Lore and Tradition of the West Slavs. Now, this isn't a book that I would necessarily get for my own practice, but I do think this is an absolutely fascinating looking book. Polish Folk Magic is an introductory guide into the folk beliefs, seasonal practices, living ancestral traditions, and authentic folk magic of the West Slavic peoples. With the Polish and Slavic diasporas in mind, Joanna Tarnowska fills the gaps where sources have been previously scarce or inaccessible to those not embedded in the region. Tarnowska guides the readers through everything from the Slavic folklore calendar to charms, protection magic, and healing. Polish folk magic includes a grimoire specific to Polish folk magic, the perfect companion for native and diasporic practitioners alike, through an exploration led by a native Polish practitioner and made accessible by providing both Polish and English versions of each charm and spoken formula. The reader is invited to personalise their craft through this rich world of folk magic. Now, doesn't that just sound absolutely incredible? I think that sounds amazing. It's also by Crosscrow, a publisher that I really like the books of, so that massively helps. There are so many people around the world who feel disconnected. They feel as though they neither belong in one place nor another. And I think this is a really beautiful way of allowing people who maybe feel so separate from their Polish roots to be able to learn more, even if they don't know the language, which can be a massive barrier to people, especially if they don't have the money for classes, if they don't have any family left that can teach them directly. I can't imagine how isolating that must feel. And so this looks so fascinating. And so for anybody who was asking on the last live stream for books on Polish folk magic, this one could be really worth checking out. I haven't read it, obviously, as I haven't read any of the books in this video, but this one looks incredible. On the 9th of December in the UK and January in the US, which is actually quite unusual for it to be that way around, we have Divine Wounds, Finding Healing by Working with the Goddesses and Archetypes. Finding empowerment in working with ancient gods is not new. Sometimes this approach to the deity is born from a wound. The wound is a catalyst of consciousness, which opens windows to other realities and invisible worlds. As a priestess hierophant, author Ness Bosch sees women who seek to get closer to the divine, to the goddess, seeking to restore their connection with divinity, but also connecting with the possible wounds that those goddesses mirror. In a painful but beautiful and healing way, the divine wound connects with the human feminine wound, bringing closer goddess and mortal. This anthology is a collective testament to the survival and resilience of women. It is a reminder that every woman, no matter how deeply wounded, continues to walk hand in hand with others, and sometimes with goddesses. The wounds we share with these divine figures are not just personal but also universal, feminine wounds that have been carried for millennia. On the 12th of December in the UK and already released in the US, we have Stone Witchery and Divination, Lithomancy and Magic with rocks, gems and crystals. Discover practical ways to use gems, crystals and stones for divination and magic in this reader-friendly illustrated book with a full colour insert. Rockhound Witch and Wiccan Priestess Amber Kay shares her vast experience working with stone allies for empowerment. Learn how to use stones in divination and how to develop a relationship with each unique stone. Instead of a laundry list of stone meanings and energies, this book presents dozens of spells and magical techniques involving stones, crystals, and gems. Charge a hearthstone for your home, establish a stone circle in your yard, and set up a standing stone shrine to your favourite deity or ancestor. Use divining boards, scry with crystals, explore lithomancy in an astrological framework, and much more. Featuring more than 30 magical workings and a plethora of divination methods, this is a must-have book for anyone who loves stones. On the 12th of December in the UK, already released in the US, we have Solomonic Pentacles, Wisdom and Magic for the Modern Age. Bring an ancient tradition into your modern practice with this book, sharing a fresh, innovative perspective on Solomonic magic. The rituals of Solomonic magic are often confusing, but this book thoroughly explains them in a practical way. Unique to this book is the inclusion of 20 new pentacles designed around the trans-Saturnian planets. You'll even learn how to make your own pentacles based on traditional principles. Emrys Abner shares a new take on the Key of Solomon that celebrates the old ways whilst also encouraging experimentation. He also presents detailed explanations of the pentacles in that famous text, including their activation psalms and path workings. You'll learn how to forge a deeper relationship with the pentacles, including the 20 new ones, and get more of what you want out of life. A culmination of Emrys's research, testing, and personal revelation, this book helps you embrace high magic in the modern world. We then have on the 12th of December, Deadly Fascination, the Lore and Lure of Poisonous Plants and Fatal Fungi. Explore humanity's fascination with deaths through 60 poisonous plants and how they've affected history, magic, warfare, art, and more. Dispatching people with poisonous plants isn't just an Agatha Christie plot. It began thousands of years ago and continues to this day. Deadly Fascination presents 60 profiles divided into 5 themes, from classic killers to frightful fungi. Each profile includes the plant's history, folklore, and medicinal uses, as well as how it may or may not be used today. Though we fear death, we're also drawn to its mysteries. Sandra Kynes feeds our curiosity and dispels common myths, investigating witches and indigenous healers, poisons in popular media, the murky roots of toxicology, and much more. From aconite to poppy to deathcap, poisonous plants can attract you like a moth to a flame. But don't get too close. Up next is the coffee table book, the one that I was talking about earlier, and if you have been on social media for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, you'll likely recognise the artwork, and it is gorgeous. On the 16th of December in both the UK and USA, we have The Goddess Atlas, an illustrated guide to female deities, myths, and sacred feminine stories from around the world. Explore the sacred feminine worldwide. Step into a world where goddesses reign. In The Goddess Atlas, illustrator and storyteller Annette Perso brings to life 90 female deities from myths, legends, and spiritual traditions around the globe. From the Olympians of ancient Greece to powerful figures from indigenous African, Asian, Slavic, and lesser-known cultures, each illustrated profile offers both beauty and depth. Learn each goddess's original cultural, historical, and mythological context, pronunciation guidance, which is much needed for me, and quotes from ancient sources. Designed for readers of goddess mythology books, divine feminine books, and anyone drawn to spiritual history, the Goddess Atlas is both an inspiring art object and an inclusive reference. Move beyond the typical Western lens and celebrate a diverse, global tapestry of sacred feminine wisdom. Inside, you'll find stunning, full-colour portraits of 90 goddesses from around the world, rich mythological and cultural context for each figure, a celebration of the sacred feminine in global history and spirituality. If you liked Goddesses in Every Woman, the Divine Feminine Oracle, or Seeds from the Sacred Feminine, you'll love The Goddess Atlas. This book looks incredible. It's exactly the kind of thing I can imagine somebody having as a coffee table book if they're particularly witchy. Perhaps a book that you just display on a side table. It's gorgeous. Not only is it super educational, it's just stunning. But the next book is actually sort of the opposite. I think that so many people will pass this one over because the cover itself doesn't look that engaging. Now, this is by Crossed Crow. It's coming out on the 23rd of December in the US and February in the UK. And unlike a lot of their other covers, this one just doesn't show how interesting this book actually sounds. This is the Crows Collection, Anthology World Magic. Now, this is actually a collaborative book by a lot of different authors, so I can't even tell you just one name. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different practitioners, at least, who've worked on this book. Landscapes influence our cultural practices as much as the people who create them, and magic is no stranger to this effect. Magic is omnipresent in our world, but many people who practice don't call it magic. Thanks to stigmatization, disavowal, and punishment for magical work, as well as Christo-colonialism, many non-Wiccan or pagan practices have gone unseen in the contemporary occult community. Crossed Crow Books' first ever anthology, The Crow's Collection of World Magic, collects 10 essays by writers and practitioners around the world about their magical practices, histories, and communities. And this one just sounds amazing. There are topics on Mayan initiation into priesthood. There are There's discussions of Macumba, of Lukumi, Finnish magic, including saunas and house spirits. We have translations of Islamic writings on talismans and magical stones. We have Balkan magic, including folklore, healers, magicians. We have dual faith Italian-American folk magic and folk Catholicism. And we also have Brujeria Mexicana, as well as spirits, fairies, and the other world from Ozark folk magic and medieval Irish texts. I think this just sounds absolutely incredible. I'm definitely going to be getting this. There's no doubt about it, because there is so much more to magic than witchcraft. And I think that the term witchcraft gets used as such a blanket term that sometimes it can have a tendency to almost erase the cultural and regional names, the practices under this sort of large umbrella of just witchcraft. There are so many magical arts around the world that have such rich history and such a diverse modern day practice as well, that I feel sort of get missed, and people don't feel as though they are practicing correctly because what they're doing isn't necessarily Wiccan or modern witchcraft. What they're doing is something rooted in history. It's something rooted in their culture, in their land. And I think a book like this is really much needed. And when I said at the start of the video that I think that maybe we're starting to see some trends appearing, I think that one of them is going to be more focused books on particular topics. We're going to be seeing books on different paths in magical arts. Polish folk magic, world magic, where we're looking at so many aspects of magical practice that just are totally missed. And I think this is really where we're going to start seeing books going. I almost think people are so bored of, like, this is a beginner witchcraft book. You don't need 100 beginner witchcraft books. What I think would be lovely to see is more diverse voices being shared within the community. And I hope that this is the way it goes, where we're seeing more of these unique perspectives that just haven't been talked about before. On the 28th of December in the UK, already released in the US, we have Memoirs of a High Priest, The Life and Magic of Alexander Cabot. Alexander Cabot's remarkable story begins in communist Cuba and takes him to New York, Salem, Britain, Brazil, and beyond, engaging with a miasma of spiritual and magical systems and a fascinating cast of influential practitioners along the way. Through Cabot's first-hand accounts, Memoirs of a High Priest offers an incredible insider's look into several diverse traditions, including Masonry, Paulo Mayombe, Santiera, Gardnerian Wicca, the Cabot tradition, and others. Cabot also includes meditations, magical practices, and more from the traditions, which the reader can integrate into their own spiritual path and story. Memoirs is not just a captivating autobiography, but also a fascinating look into the modern history of today's Western spiritual current. On the 28th of December in the UK, and this is actually already released in the US, we have Eco-Spirituality for the 21st Century, Revisioning Nature, Community and Connection for a Better Tomorrow. Eco-Spirituality offers a new vision for nature spirituality, both by drawing upon ancient, ancestral connections and by visioning human nature-spirit connections for a brighter future. The authors combine their collective skill set in druidry, wilderness survival skills, permaculture, and more to create this new framework for engaging in an eco-centric spiritual practice and lifestyle in the 21st century. This in-depth guide explores 7 principles for re-envisioning humans' relationship with the living earth: recognition, respect, rewilding, regeneration, resilience, re-enchantment, and re-envisioning. Each principle is introduced through storytelling and then discovered through the Bard, Ovate, and Druid framework, detailing exercises the reader can engage in to experience the principle throughout creative, explorative, interpersonal, and spiritual actions. Readers will explore how to build community around nature-based ceremony, cultural sharing, and experiences in the wild, develop meaningful skill sets such as permaculture, survival, and ancestral skills, tap into the primordial energy of the earth and nature through ceremony and meditation, use ceremony to rejuvenate and regenerate the natural world, connect with nature in meaningful ways, including building ecological knowledge, rewild their lives with wild movement and creativity and connecting to nature's rhythms, and tend and regenerate their local ecosystems and communities. With eco-spirituality, discover a guide to be more meaningful, connected, and future-oriented nature spirituality. So on the 30th of December, we have another of those books that's probably going to be Marmite. But for some people, this one could be really, really useful. This is a Kindle book, and I believe it's actually the second book in a series, so there could be 2 books if you are particularly interested in this topic. On the 30th of December, we have Discerning Christian Witchcraft, an intermediate walk through the mystic life. In the sequel to Discovering Christian Witchcraft, Sara Raz-Trezin and Emil D. Prater dive deep beneath the surface of Christian faith and witchcraft practice to guide readers through the mystical inner journey. Known and described over the centuries by learned and experienced mystics like Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint John of the Cross, and so many others, this is the inner journey of the soul, one where the witch and mystic meet at the crossroads and where their journeys intertwine. Learn from the saints, from select scholars, and from Sarah and Mimi's personal experiences with mysticism as Christian witches, as they guide you through a journey of self-discovery, transfiguration, and ever-deepening relationships with the divine. So, as mentioned, not going to be for everybody, but I think that this one looks interesting for people who are wanting to dive into this combined faith that a lot of people are starting to step into, and I think it's really good that we have resources for that. And then lastly, this one's actually already released in the UK, totally missed it. On the 30th of December in the UK, we have Pagan Portal's Anya, Goddess of the Sun, Fairy Queen of Ireland. So this is another of the Pagan Portal books. They're usually really small, but if you're just getting started on working with goddesses and deities, and you aren't really sure who you feel drawn to, or perhaps you've already felt connections to particular goddesses or gods, and you want to learn more about them, single books like this can be really accessible. They're really small, fairly easy to get through, and packed full of information. Anya is a popular goddess known for her associations with love, fertility, and the sun, celebrated at the height of summer and at the first harvests. A fairy queen of the Tuatha De Danann, she is beloved both by the Irish people, whose land she is entwined with, and by neo-pagans across the world. Even her name means bright, but she also has a dark side. Caution may be advised, for Anya is also known as a dark muse in Victorian fairy tales, a neo-pagan goddess who seeks justice and revenge for trauma survivors, and a powerful queen of the Hollow Hills in native Irish folklore. This book will introduce you to Anya and suggest ways to honour her in your practice, as well as exploring her deep and complex history. So those are all of the books coming out that I could find. I'm sure that I've definitely missed some that I feel particularly interested in, and I would love for you to put down the ones you feel most interested in down in the comment section as well, are the Crow's Collection Anthology World Magic. That one looks incredible. The Goddess Atlas is obviously just beautiful. But for me, it's Polish folk magic. That one just looks like it's going to be phenomenal. Before you do magic, train your mind to awaken occult skills. I think that one could be game-changing. As well as Accused. That map just looks like it's going to be so good. And are there any others? I'm just scrolling all the way up. And The Years of the Wizard, the strange true history and home life of Renaissance magicians. They all sound really, really interesting to me. I would absolutely love to know which ones you feel particularly drawn to down in the comment section. If you do like these videos, I really appreciate if you could give them a like. Let me know as well, come back if you read any of them. If you read any of the books we've spoken about, come back and leave a quick review. It can just be like some little star emojis or something, just to give people a little bit of an idea, because the reality is there are so many books coming out about witchcraft. It's impossible to get them all. It's impossible to keep up. People aren't financially prepared for that. And so it's really important that we make the best decisions that we possibly can with the books that we're buying and the money that we have. So I always think if you've got a book, maybe you have the original edition instead of the revised edition, let us know what you think about it so that people can make the best decisions possible. With that being said, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them down in the comment section, and I try to post magical content every single week, though I did take last week off because I've been scripting. I have lots and lots of videos that I'm like partway through scripting. I'm trying to get through them, so we'll get that. I hope you are staying safe. I hope you have a marvelous magical day, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye!